The rain hit the windshield so hard Marcus could barely see 10 feet ahead. He had been driving for 40 minutes on a road that felt like it was swallowing itself, the kind of dark that makes you question whether the highway ever ends, or whether you just keep going until you disappear into it. His hands were tight on the wheel. His shoulders were up near his ears. He had worked 14 hours that day, and every single one of them was sitting on the back of his neck like a stone. He almost missed her. The headlights caught the edge of something first. A color. Orange. The hazard lights of a car pulled onto the gravel shoulder, blinking slow and tired like a creature that had given up. Then the figure standing beside it. A woman. One arm raised, the other pressed flat against the car roof like she was trying to hold the whole thing together by sheer will. Marcus's foot lifted off the gas before his brain had made any decision. He told himself he was just slowing down to look. That was all. Just a look. The road was empty in both directions, and the rain was the kind of rain that turns people into problems they did not ask for. He had Lily in the back seat, 7 years old, buckled in, head tipped sideways against the window, completely asleep. He had responsibilities. He had reasons. He pulled over anyway. The gravel crunched under his tires. He put the truck in park and sat there for exactly 3 seconds, engine running, watching the woman in his side mirror shield her eyes from his headlights. She was holding something. A phone. She looked at it, then at his truck, then back at the phone. She did not walk toward him. She stood her ground and waited, which told him something about her, though he could not have said what exactly. He got out. The rain soaked through his jacket before he had taken 2 steps. The woman was maybe 35, maybe a year or two either side of that. She had a long coat on, the kind that looked like it was meant for cities, not for standing on a 2-lane highway in the middle of nowhere with mud working its way up her heels. Her hair was plastered flat against the side of her face. She looked at him with the careful expression of someone who has spent time learning to read strangers fast. "I am so sorry to flag you down," she said. Her voice was steady. That surprised him a little. "I have a flat. I tried to call a tow, but I lost signal about 10 minutes ago. I do not even know exactly where I am." Marcus looked at the car. Front right tire. Not just flat, but collapsed. The rim sitting almost on the road. Whatever had hit it hard. "Do you have a spare?" he asked. She shook her head. It was already the spare. The original went 3 days ago. He looked at her for a moment, not studying her, just taking in the situation. The car was a small silver sedan, packed. He could see bags through the rear window, a box of something stacked on the back seat, a folded blanket, someone who had been traveling with everything. "I have signal," he said, pulling out his phone. "I can call you a tow." She breathed out. "Thank you. Genuinely, thank you." He made the call. The tow company put him on hold for 4 minutes. When the dispatcher came back, she told him the earliest truck available was running 50 minutes out. Minimum. Marcus relayed this. The woman closed her eyes for 1 second, then opened them and nodded like she had already prepared herself for bad news. "Okay," she said. "Okay. I will just wait." Marcus looked at the rain. He looked at her shoes. He looked back at his truck where Lily was still asleep, her small face slack and peaceful, completely unaware that her father was standing in a downpour trying to talk himself out of the only decent thing to do. "You can wait in my truck," he said. "It is warm. I am not going to leave you standing out here in this." She looked at him. The careful look again. Then something in her face loosened, just slightly, the way a fist unclenches 1 finger at a time. "I am Clara," she said. "Marcus," he said. They shook hands in the rain, which felt like the most absurd and completely appropriate thing that had happened all day. He got her settled in the front passenger seat and turned the heat up. Lily stirred in the back, opened one eye, registered a stranger, and closed it again with the absolute trust of a child who has learned her father does not bring danger home. Marcus almost smiled at that. Clara held her phone in both hands, watching the battery number like it was a countdown. 11%. She had turned off every app running in the background. He noticed the way she did it. Methodical. No panic. Just management. Someone used to making the most of limited things. They drove in the direction of town because sitting on the shoulder in that rain with a collapsed tire felt like pressing their luck. Clara navigated from memory of road signs she had passed before the tire went. She was good at that. She remembered the exit number, the name of the last town she had seen on a sign, the approximate distance. She spoke in clear, specific language. He appreciated that more than he could explain. He had spent 3 years surrounded by people who spoke in approximations and size. The tow truck would meet them at the nearest service station, a place called Grover's, which sat at the intersection of 2 county roads and served pie and fuel in equal measure. Marcus had stopped there maybe 100 times. The woman behind the counter knew his usual order. That felt like a strange comfort right now. Clara asked if he was heading home from work. He said yes. She asked what kind. He said manufacturing. A plant 40 minutes east. She nodded like that was a complete answer, which it was. She did not push. He asked where she was headed. She was quiet for a beat. Not the evasive kind of quiet, the honest kind, where the person is actually thinking about the answer. West, she said. I have a cousin in a town about 4 hours from here. She said I could stay for a while and figure things out. Marcus nodded. He understood figure things out. He had been doing it for 3 years. It did not always look like progress from the outside. From the inside, it mostly felt like waking up every morning and choosing to try again, which sounded simple until you actually had to do it. They pulled into Grover's. The lights were on. A single truck was parked out front. Through the window, Marcus could see the counterwoman, Ruth Ann, wiping down the glass display case the way she always did at this hour. He parked and they went inside. The bell above the door announced them. Ruth Ann looked up and took in Marcus, then Clara, then the state of both of them, then made the only reasonable decision available to a woman of her particular experience, and put on a fresh pot of coffee without being asked. Marcus called home. His neighbor, a retired woman named Gloria who lived 3 doors down and had unofficially adopted the role of backup grandmother to Lily, had already texted to say she had been watching for his headlights. He texted her back. She sent a thumbs up and a coffee cup and a small yellow moon, because Gloria communicated exclusively in emoji after 9 o'clock. They sat at the counter. Ruth Ann brought 2 cups and a plate of something she said was almost pie but was technically cobbler because she had run out of proper crust. Neither of them argued. Clara wrapped both hands around the mug and the color came back into her face by degrees. Lily had woken up fully by this point and was sitting on the stool beside Marcus, eating a cup of chocolate pudding that Ruth Ann had produced from somewhere in the back, and watching Clara with the open, uncomplicated attention of a child who has not yet learned that staring is rude. Your hair is very straight, Lily told Clara. It usually has more personality, Clara said. Lily considered this. My dad's hair does that too. When it rains, it goes flat, and then when it dries, it goes big again. Marcus did not confirm or deny this. Clara smiled. It was the first time he had seen her smile, and it changed her face entirely, the way a window changes a room when you open it. The tow truck arrived 48 minutes later. The driver was a large, tired man named Pete, who smelled like oil and cold air, and who delivered the verdict on Clara's tire with the blunt honesty of someone who has broken bad news so many times it no longer feels personal. The tire was gone. The rim had taken damage. The car could be towed to his lot, but there was nothing happening tonight. Parts would need to be ordered. Best case, she was looking at tomorrow afternoon. Clara stood in the parking lot of Grover's and received this information without falling apart, which Marcus found quietly impressive. She pulled up her phone. 7% now. She was looking for hotels. There was one in town, a place called the Colonial Inn, which had not been updated since approximately 1987, and was currently showing no availability online. She called. It rang out. She called again. This time someone answered and told her they were full. Some kind of local event had taken every room. And no, they did not have suggestions for alternatives, because the next nearest option was back the way she had come, 30 miles east. She stood very still for a moment, just holding the phone. Marcus looked at his truck. He looked at Lily, who had fallen back asleep against his shoulder with her pudding cup still loosely in one hand. He looked at Clara, who was doing the thing where she was clearly running options in her head and finding them all either too expensive, too far, or simply not available. He thought about his house. 3 bedrooms, 2 of them used. A couch that was too long for the living room and too comfortable to move. A lock on the front door. A daughter who had fallen asleep next to a stranger and not once seemed afraid. He thought about the kind of man he was trying to raise his daughter to believe existed. "You can stay," he said. "I have a couch. It is decent. Lily will not bother you in the morning. She is not a morning person. I will make breakfast and drive you back to Pete's when the parts come in." Clara looked at him. The careful look had come back. "You do not know me," she said. It was not an accusation. It was just true. "No," he said. "But it is 11 at night, and there is nowhere for you to go. So." She looked at him for another moment. Then she picked up her bag from where Pete had unloaded it from the car. "Thank you, Marcus," she said. He put Lily over his shoulder and led the way to the truck. The rain had dropped to a drizzle. The parking lot lights made small orange circles on the wet asphalt. Clara walked beside him and did not say anything else, and neither did he. And the quiet between them was not uncomfortable. It was the kind of quiet that means two people have each understood something without needing to discuss it. He drove home. Lily slept the whole way. Clara watched the road with the alert, slightly unfocused gaze of someone who is very tired, but has trained themselves not to give in to it completely. When they pulled into his driveway, the porch light was on. He had left it on the way he always did. For Lily, so she would never come home to a dark house. Clara looked at the porch light for just a second longer than everything else. Marcus noticed that. He did not say anything about it. He just unlocked the front door and held it open and let her in. The house was warm. Clara stepped inside and stopped for a moment, the way people stop when they walk into a space that carries something heavy and soft at the same time. It was the kind of house that had been lived in hard and loved harder. The entryway had a coat hook low enough for a child, a pair of muddy rain boots with cartoon frogs on them, and a hand-drawn welcome sign taped to the wall that said "Welcome Home" in letters of varying sizes, purple crayon, completely serious. Marcus carried Lily past her and down the hall without turning on any lights. He knew the floor well enough. Clara waited by the door, bag at her feet, listening to the soft sound of a child being tucked in, a door clicking shut, footsteps coming back. He came into the living room and flipped on the lamp. It was a small house, but a clean one. Everything had a place, even if the place was sometimes a kitchen counter or the arm of a chair. There was a puzzle on the coffee table, half finished. Dinosaurs. A library book face down beside it. A single sneaker in the middle of the floor with no partner in sight. "Sorry about the sneaker," he said, picking it up. "I have seen worse," she said. He showed her the couch, the blanket in the closet, the bathroom at the end of the hall. He told her she was welcome to anything in the kitchen, that the hot water took about 30 seconds to come in, and that Lily woke up sometime around 7, and generally announced herself by dropping something. Clara laughed at that. A short, real laugh. "I will be ready," she said. He said goodnight. She said goodnight. He went to his room and sat on the edge of his bed in the dark for a long moment before he lay down. He was not sure what he felt. Not worried. Not exactly. Something more like the awareness that something had shifted. Slightly. In the way a picture shifts when the nail behind it loosens just a little. Still hanging. Just not where it used to be. He closed his eyes. Outside, the rain had stopped completely. The house was quiet in the way houses get quiet when everyone in them has finally let go of the day. Clara sat on the couch with the blanket pulled over her and stared at the ceiling for a while. Not sleeping, just being still. She had not been still in 4 days. She had been moving, deciding, loading, driving, calling, rerouting. 4 days of forward motion, and then a tire had stopped her flat and dropped her here, in a stranger's living room, in a town she did not know, and somehow that felt less terrifying than the driving had. She looked at the puzzle on the coffee table. Dinosaurs. The Brachiosaurus was finished. The Triceratops was still missing its head. She fell asleep looking at it. The last thing she thought was that the house smelled like crayons and dish soap and something she could not name, something that took her a moment, and then she had it. Home. It smelled like home. Not hers, but someone's. And right now that was enough. Lily did not drop something. She knocked something over, which was slightly different, and significantly louder. Marcus was already half awake when it happened. The way parents stay half awake even when they are asleep. that one ear always tuned to the frequency of a child in motion. He heard the clatter, then a pause, then Lily's voice saying, "Whoops," in the calm, unbothered tone of someone who has decided the sound already happened, and there is nothing useful in feeling bad about it. He lay there for a moment, stared at the ceiling. 6:47 in the morning. The light through the curtain was the pale gray white of early day that has not decided yet whether it wants to be nice or not. Then he remembered Clara. He sat up. He went down the hall quietly. But he did not need to bother. Lily had already found her. He stopped in the doorway of the living room and saw his daughter standing 3 feet from the couch, still in her owl pajamas, holding the puzzle box lid in both hands like an offering. Clara was sitting up, blanket around her shoulders, hair no longer plastered flat but doing something complicated and unplanned on one side of her head, looking at Lily with the expression of someone who has been awake for approximately 45 seconds and is doing their very best. "I knocked the puzzle," Lily said. "I heard," said Clara. The Triceratops head went under the couch. "We can find it." Lily considered this. Then she sat down on the floor right there, set the puzzle box lid aside, and looked under the couch with the focused intensity of a small person on a mission. Clara looked up and found Marcus in the doorway. She raised one eyebrow. He mouthed sorry. She shook her head slightly, which he took to mean do not be, which surprised him enough that he went to make coffee just to have something to do with his hands. By the time the coffee was ready, Lily had found the Triceratops head and 2 other pieces she had not known were missing, and she and Clara were sitting on the living room floor with the puzzle between them. Lily was explaining the naming conventions of dinosaurs with the authority of someone who has done considerable research, which she had, because her teacher Mr. Dalton had done a whole unit on it in the spring, and Lily had taken it personally. Marcus set a mug on the coffee table beside Clara, without interrupting. She picked it up without looking away from the puzzle. He went back to the kitchen and made eggs and toast, because it was the only breakfast he knew how to make in large quantities, without it becoming complicated. He stood at the stove and listened to the murmur of his daughter's voice, and the occasional response from the living room, and he felt something he had not felt in a long time. He felt like his house had a second person in it, not in a complicated way, in the simplest possible way, just another voice, just the sound of someone else being present. He had forgotten how much that weighed, not as a burden, as a ballast. He did not think about that too long. He flipped the eggs. They ate at the kitchen table, the 3 of them. Lily sat between them by her own choosing, arranging herself there, with the certainty of a child who sees no reason to be on the outside of anything. She ate her toast in 4 bites, and then asked Clara what her favorite dinosaur was. Clara said she had always had a soft spot for the Ankylosaurus. Lily looked at her with sudden deep respect. "Nobody ever says the Ankylosaurus," she said. "Nobody gives it enough credit," Clara said. "It had a club for a tail," Lily said. "Exactly." Marcus watched this exchange and said nothing. He drank his coffee. Outside the kitchen window, the morning had made up its mind and was turning into something decent, the kind of pale morning light that does not promise anything spectacular but is steady and honest. Clara helped clear the table without being asked. She ran water in the sink and started washing her own plate and Lily's before he had even stood up, and Marcus had to actively not make a thing of it. It was a small act. It meant nothing, and it meant something. He let it be both. After breakfast, Lily went to get dressed, which was a process that took somewhere between 12 and 25 minutes, depending on how many outfits she decided to audition. Marcus and Clara sat with their second cups of coffee, and Clara checked her phone. Pete's lot opened at 8. It was 7:20. "I can drive you over at 8, Marcus said. "You have already done so much," she said. "I can call a cab." "There are no cabs here. There is one rideshare driver named Dale, who mostly only works Thursday through Saturday." Clara looked at him. "What kind of town is this?" "The kind where people just drive each other places," he said. She laughed. The same real laugh from the night before. It landed the same way, too. They drove to Pete's lot at 8:15. Lily came along because school did not start until 9, and because Lily was constitutionally opposed to being left out of anything. She sat in the back seat and asked Clara questions the entire way. What city did she come from? Did she have any pets? What was the best thing she had ever eaten? Did she know how to do a cartwheel? Clara answered all of them. Seriously, without performing interest, the way adults answer children when they actually mean it. Marcus kept his eyes on the road. Pete was behind his desk when they walked in, holding a coffee cup the size of a small bucket. He looked at Clara's phone number in his log, then at the computer, then at a sticky note on the edge of his monitor, and his face did the thing it always did when he had to say something a person was not going to want to hear. So, he said. The part was not standard. The rim damage had affected something inside the wheel housing. He needed to order a second component. He was looking at 2 days, not 1, possibly 3, if the supplier was slow. Clara stood very still and received this. Okay, she said. Her voice did not waver. Is there anything I can do to speed it up? Pete said he would call in a favor with the supplier. Maybe get it down to 2 days flat. She thanked him. She paid the deposit. She walked back out to Marcus's truck and stood beside it in the lot, looking at nothing in particular. He came out and stood near her without asking questions. Lily had stayed inside talking to Pete, who had a jar of wrapped candy on the counter, and a fondness for children that he expressed through the unconditional giving of sweets. 2 days, Clara said. It was not a complaint, just a confirmation. There is a hotel about 30 miles east, he said. I can take you. Or. He stopped. She looked at him. Or, she said. He took a breath. The couch is not going anywhere. You already know where the bathroom is. Lily found your triceratops head, which means she considers you basically family already. Clara was quiet for a moment. The morning light was doing something nice to the lot, turning the puddles from last night's rain into small flat mirrors. A crow landed on the fence at the far end and looked at them with professional indifference. I do not want to be a burden, she said. You are not a burden, he said. You are a person in a situation. There is a difference. She looked at him for a long moment with that careful, reading look. Then she nodded. Once. Solidly. Okay, she said. 2 days. Thank you. Lily came banging back out through the door with a butterscotch candy in each hand and a completely triumphant expression. She looked at Clara, then at Marcus, then back at Clara. Are you staying more? She asked. 2 more days, Clara said. Lily unwrapped one of her butterscotches, placed it firmly in Clara's palm, and walked to the truck like that settled everything. Because for Lily, it did. Marcus dropped Lily at school, and then drove Clara back to the house. She asked if she could help with anything. He said there was laundry in the machine that needed to go to the dryer, and that Lily's lunch bag from yesterday needed washing. Normal house things. Small maintenance things. Clara did them without comment, without the awkwardness of a guest trying to prove something. Just with the comfortable efficiency of someone who knows how a house works and is willing to be useful. He went to call his supervisor. He had 1 personal day left. He used it. He was not entirely sure why. He told himself it was practical, that Clara did not know the town and might need to get somewhere. That was true. It was also not the whole truth. The whole truth was something quieter that he was not ready to look at yet. He sat at the kitchen table with his phone after the call was done and looked out the window at the backyard. There was a swing set out there, the cheap kind from a hardware store, slightly crooked, because he had built it himself the summer after his wife left. The first summer he was doing everything alone. He had built it in 1 day, mostly to prove to himself that he could. It had taken 4 hours longer than it should have, and he had 2 blisters afterward, and Lily had said it was the best swing set in the entire world, and he had believed her. He heard Clara in the hallway. She appeared in the kitchen doorway holding a book she had taken from the shelf in the living room. She had changed into dry clothes from her bag. She looked different in the daylight, more settled, like she had slept and it had done something useful. Do you mind? She said, holding up the book. Not at all, he said. She sat down across from him at the kitchen table, opened the book, and began to read. He had some paperwork he had been putting off. He got it from the drawer and set it between them. They sat in the morning quiet, both occupied, not talking, the kind of silence that is not empty. It lasted a while. Then Clara turned a page and said, without looking up, "How long have you been doing this alone?" He looked at the table. 3 years, he said. She nodded. turned another page. "You are doing a good job," she said. Just like that, plainly, like it was a fact she had noticed and felt no need to dress up. He did not know what to say. He said thank you. It came out quieter than he meant it. She did not make it strange. She just kept reading. He went back to his paperwork. Outside, the morning continued. The swing set stood crooked in the yard. A bird landed on the top bar and sat there a moment, then left. The house held its breath and then let it go. Marcus sorted through the papers in front of him. Bills, mostly. One letter from the school about an upcoming field trip. Lily's form unsigned. He signed it. A renewal notice for the truck insurance. A handwritten note he had forgotten about, tucked under everything else, from Gloria next door, inviting him and Lily to her garden in the spring. He had missed the garden party by 2 months. He set the note aside and made a mental note to go see Gloria. She was the kind of person who deserved showing up for. He glanced up and found Clara looking at him. Not with curiosity, with something more careful than that. "You were far away," she said. "Just sorting," he said. She accepted that, went back to the book. By mid-morning, they had arrived somewhere comfortable, without either of them designing it. He made more coffee. She found the bread and made toast, and did not ask permission, just put a plate beside his elbow. He ate it. She was reading again before he finished the first slice. When Lily came home from school at 3:15, she came through the front door like weather. Bag dropped in the hallway, shoes off in 2 different directions. A story beginning before she had even turned the corner into the kitchen. Something about a boy named Owen who had put his eraser in the class fish tank, and about the substitute teacher who had not handled it well, and about how Lily herself had retrieved the eraser using a method she described as very simple, which Marcus suspected involved significantly more drama than that. Clara listened to the whole thing with her chin in her hand. "What happened to Owen?" she asked, when Lily paused for breath. "He had to sit with the kindergartners for the rest of the day," Lily said, which he said was not even a punishment, because he likes kindergartners. "He sounds like an interesting person," Clara said. "He puts erasers in fish tanks," Lily said. "He is very interesting." Marcus made dinner. Pasta, because it was reliable, and Lily would eat it without negotiation. Clara offered to make the sauce. He handed her the pan. She made something with garlic and canned tomatoes and a little dried basil that was substantially better than what he would have done, and he told her so, and she said it was just thyme and salt, which he suspected was both the literal truth and also a metaphor for things neither of them were talking about yet. They ate. Lily talked. The kitchen was warm. The window above the sink had fogged up from the steam. After dinner, Lily did her homework at the table, with Marcus checking fractions over her shoulder, while Clara washed the pans. She did it quietly, without being asked, the radio on low on the counter. An old song Marcus half recognized but could not name. When Lily went to bed, Marcus sat on the porch steps. Clara came out after a few minutes and sat beside him. Not close, just near. The night was cool and clear, the rain having taken all the mugginess with it. "You never asked me why I left," she said. "Not my business," he said. She was quiet for a moment. "Most people ask. Most people are curious about the wrong things," he said. She did not laugh at that. She just sat with it. He had the impression she was turning it over, checking the edges of it, deciding whether it was true. "It was a job and a situation, and a city, all at once," she said. "All 3 stopped working at the same time." He nodded. He understood the architecture of that, the way things that are separate can still be connected at the root, so when one goes, the others go too. "Where were you before the Cousins?" he asked. She named a city 4 states east. He knew it only as a place on a map, a name he had driven past on a highway sign once, years ago. "Did you like it there?" he asked. She thought about it honestly. "I liked who I thought I was going to become there," she said. "That is not quite the same thing." The porch light made a small, warm circle around them. Beyond it, the yard was dark. The swing set was just a shape out there, crooked and familiar. "No," he said. "It is not." They sat until the air got cold enough to feel it. Then Clara went inside first. saying goodnight at the door, and Marcus stayed out for another few minutes, just him, and the quiet and the dark yard. He was not a person who talked much about himself. He had learned to fold that instinct down, the way you fold a map along lines that already exist in the paper. 3 years of doing everything alone had made him economical with himself, with words, with need. But something was loosening. He could feel it, the way you feel a window when someone opens it in a room you have had closed for too long. He was not sure what to do about that. He was not sure he had to do anything yet. He went inside, checked on Lily. She was completely out, one arm over her face, one leg dangling off the mattress in a position that should not have been comfortable but clearly was. He straightened the blanket over her. He stood in the doorway for a moment. Then he went to his own room and lay down in the dark. In the living room, the lamp clicked off, Clara settling in. The house was quiet. It was the kind of quiet that had weight to it, the good kind. The kind that means everyone inside is safe. Marcus had not noticed that quiet in a long time. Or rather, he had noticed it, but always from the outside of it, always as something one person felt with a missing piece. Tonight it felt different. He did not analyze it. He just let the house be what it was. And for the first time in 3 years, the quiet felt like something he was in, rather than something surrounding him. He fell asleep quickly, which was also something that had not happened in a long time. The second morning was easier than the first. That was the thing about strangers in your house. The first morning was all careful movement, all polite awareness of shared space. The second morning, the edges had softened. You had already seen each other with bad hair and sleep in your eyes, and you had both survived it, so there was less to protect. Clara was up before Marcus. He came into the kitchen to find her standing at the counter in the gray morning light, reading the back of the coffee bag with the focused attention she seemed to give most things. She had found the coffee filters in the second drawer. She had not opened any other drawers, which he noticed and appreciated, without knowing exactly why. She poured him a cup before he had asked for one. He sat down. She sat across from him. Lily was still asleep, which was slightly unusual for a Saturday but not unheard of, particularly on a morning after a week of school that had involved at least one eraser in a fish tank, and whatever else Lily considered worth her energy. "Did you sleep?" he asked. "Better than I expected," she said. "That couch is better than it looks." "I have been saying that for 2 years," he said. "Nobody believes me until they sleep on it." She smiled into her coffee cup. He had noticed she did that, aimed her smiles slightly sideways or downward, not hiding them exactly, just not performing them. He appreciated that too. He thought about what she had said the night before on the porch, about the city and the job and the situation all going at once. He had not asked more. He still did not. But the words had stayed with him in the particular way things stay when they land in a place that already has some shape prepared for them. He had his own version of that story. He had kept most of it in the drawer where you keep the things you do not discuss, because discussing them does not change them, and you have a 7-year-old to feed, and a job to get to, and a swing set to build badly in the backyard, while your hands shake. Lily came in at 7:30. Owl pajamas again. The owl pajamas were clearly the default. She stopped at the kitchen door, looked at Clara, seemed to confirm some internal calculation about the situation, and went to pour herself a glass of orange juice without ceremony. "Are we doing something today?" she asked. The question was addressed to both of them with equal weight, which was not lost on Marcus, who filed it away in the part of his mind, reserved for things Lily did, that he needed to think about later. "What do you want to do?" Marcus asked. "The lake," Lily said. The lake was a 20-minute drive, a small reservoir outside town that had a gravel path around it, a little dock that someone had repaired every spring for 20 years, and in the right weather, a view that made you feel like the world was not so demanding after all. Marcus took Lily there most Saturdays in warm months. It was their thing. She brought bread for the ducks, even though a sign at the path entrance said not to feed the ducks, which she had decided applied to other people. He looked at Clara. "You are welcome," he said, "if you want to get out of the house." She had been about to say she could stay. He could see it forming in her expression, that automatic instinct to take up as little space as possible. He watched her stop it. "I would like that," she said. They took Marcus's truck. Lily sat between them in the front and talked the whole way. Marcus drove with one hand on the wheel. Clara had the window slightly down, the morning air moving through it, and she watched the landscape change from houses to fields to the tree line that meant the reservoir was close. It was a good day for it. The storm had taken everything hazy with it and left behind the kind of morning that was crisp and very clear. The water, when they got there, was flat and dark blue, reflecting a sky that had committed to being straightforwardly beautiful. Lily was out of the truck before it had fully stopped. She had her bread bag in her fist, and she was already heading for the dock with the focused velocity of a small person who has made a decision. Marcus called after her to wait at the path. She did not slow down, but she did hold up a hand, which he had learned was her version of compliance. He and Clara followed at a normal human pace. "She is something," Clara said. "She is a great deal," he said. "I mean that as a compliment." "So did I," she said. They walked the path. The gravel crunched under their shoes. There were two other people on the far side of the water, a man throwing a stick for a dog, the dog thoroughly committed to the task. A heron stood at the edge of the reeds and pretended not to be watching anything. Lily had reached the dock and was holding pieces of bread out at arm's length with enormous patience, while two ducks approached at the cautious speed of creatures who have been disappointed before. Marcus stopped near the end of the dock and watched her. Clara stood beside him. "Do you have children?" he asked. The question came out naturally. It was not prying. It was the kind of thing you ask someone after 2 days of watching them interact with your daughter the way Clara did. Easily, genuinely. She was quiet for a moment. Not the thinking kind of quiet. The other kind. "No," she said. Then, after a beat, "I thought I would, at one point." He did not push. She did not explain. The heron on the far bank decided it had seen enough and lifted into the air with the effortful, deliberate grace of a large bird that has its doubts about flying. Lily successfully gave bread to the ducks. She turned to look at Marcus with an expression of such pure triumph that he felt it like something physical in the center of his chest. He raised his thumb. She raised both of hers. Clara was watching, and when Marcus glanced at her, her face was doing the thing it had done when she looked at the laminated drawings on his fridge that first night. That expression he had not been able to name. He still could not name it precisely, but he was beginning to understand its edges. It was the look of someone watching something they wanted from a careful distance, because they had learned that wanting things without distance is how you get hurt. He knew that look. He had worn it himself for a long time. They walked the full path around the water. Lily ran ahead and circled back and ran ahead again, a pattern she could maintain apparently indefinitely. They talked, and did not talk in roughly equal measure. Clara asked about the town. He told her things about it that were not in any visitor's guide. The bakery on Front Street that was only good on Tuesdays because that was the day the owner's mother came in, and nobody could explain why she made it better. The library that had a reading dog on Wednesday afternoons. An old basset hound named Harold who sat extremely still while children read to him and looked profoundly moved by every story. The road that ran along the eastern edge of the county and had a 2-mile stretch where there were no houses and no power lines, and on a clear night in winter, you could see more stars than you thought was reasonable. Clara listened to all of it. She asked questions. Not the polite kind. The kind that come from actual curiosity. He found himself talking about the town the way he had not talked about it in years, like someone seeing it through a lens they had almost lost the habit of looking through. He liked it here. He had sometimes forgotten that. Lily joined them on the second lap of the path, walking between them, one hand in Marcus's, the other swinging free. She had run out of bread and given it all to the ducks, and felt resolved about the morning's mission. "Clara," she said, in the considering tone that meant she was about to say something she had been thinking about. "Yes," Clara said. "Do you like puzzles?" "Very much." "We have a new one. It is 1,000 pieces. My dad says it is too hard for me, but he is wrong." Marcus said nothing. He had in fact said it was very challenging, which Lily had translated into too hard for me, which was her standard editorial move when she wanted to make a point. "I believe you," Clara said. "You can help us if you want," Lily said, "when we get home." "I would like that," Clara said. Marcus looked at the water. The surface had a few small ripples moving across it now. From a breeze he could barely feel. The heron had landed on the far bank again, back in position, prepared to pretend it was not watching. He thought about how this was the second time today that Lily had said "we," in a way that included Clara without hesitation. He thought about how he had not corrected it either time. They drove home. Lily fell asleep in the truck between them within 10 minutes, which she did with the absolute no-warning system failure of a child who has spent all their energy and is simply finished. Her head tipped sideways and landed on Clara's shoulder. Clara went very still. She did not move Lily. She sat with her arms slightly out of the way, and Lily's weight against her, and looked straight ahead at the road. Marcus drove. He said nothing. After a few minutes, Clara said quietly, not looking at him, "She smells like bread and lake." "She usually smells like something she has recently been near," he said. Clara looked down at Lily's sleeping face and said nothing else. They got back to the house. Marcus carried Lily in. She slept straight through until nearly noon. They set up the puzzle at the kitchen table while she was sleeping. 1,000 pieces. A map of the night sky. Deeply ambitious for anyone. Clara sorted the edge pieces with a focused efficiency that suggested she was not new to puzzles. Marcus found the corner pieces and announced each one with quiet satisfaction. "You do puzzles a lot?" she asked. "Lily and I, every rainy weekend." "What does she listen to while she does them?" He looked up. "Audiobooks. She likes mysteries. She has opinions about whether detectives in old books would have solved things faster with a cell phone." Clara laughed. "What does she conclude?" "Every single time." "Yes," he said. They worked on the puzzle. The kitchen was warm. The house was quiet, except for the occasional sound of Lily moving in her room down the hall. The afternoon took its time. It was in that quiet, in the ordinary, unhurried space of two people working on a puzzle while a child slept down the hall, that Clara told him a little more. Not everything. Just edges. The job had been a legal firm. She was a paralegal. Had been for 9 years. Family law. The kind of work that sounds straightforward until you are inside it, and you understand that family law is mostly people in the worst moments of their lives, and you are the person helping to structure the legal edges of that pain. She had been good at it. She said this without pride, just plainly. She had been good at it, and she had believed in it. And then the firm had changed. New management. A new partner who had different ideas about costs, about the kinds of cases they took, about what the work was for. And Clara had found herself, over the course of about 8 months, no longer recognizing the version of the job she was doing, no longer recognizing what she was part of. She had quit on a Monday morning. She had told her cousin that same afternoon. She had been packed by Wednesday. Marcus listened without interrupting. He set a piece of sky into its place. Dark blue. No stars yet. "Do you regret it?" he asked. She thought about it. Really thought. He had noticed she did not answer important questions quickly. She took the time to check. "No," she said. "I was afraid I would. But no." "What do you want to do instead?" he asked. "I think I still want to do family law," she said, "just differently. For people who need it and cannot always afford it. There are organizations that do that. My cousin knows a few. That is part of why I am going to her." Marcus nodded. He found a piece of the constellation Orion and placed it without speaking. She asked about him. He told her the plant. 12 years. He had started there straight out of high school, because his father had worked there, and it was the thing available, and he had been someone who did the thing available. He had stayed because of Lily, because the hours worked, because the insurance was good. Because when your life narrows to a single essential point, you stop evaluating options and start maintaining the one you have. She asked if that felt like enough. He was quiet for a moment. He set down the piece he was holding. "I stopped asking that for a while," he said. "I had to. You do not get to ask that question when the answer might pull you somewhere that does not work for a 7-year-old. She was looking at him now. "But recently," he said. He stopped. He picked up the puzzle piece. "Recently I have started asking it again, which I think means something." She held his gaze for a moment. Then she went back to the puzzle. "I think it does too," she said quietly. The afternoon passed. Lily woke up and joined them at the table, and immediately found 3 pieces that had defeated both adults for an hour. which she announced with the same triumphant expression she had used on the ducks. They ate dinner. Chicken this time. From something Marcus found in the freezer, and Clara helped him turn into something with more character than he would have managed alone. They watched a movie Lily chose, something animated about a bear who becomes an unexpectedly good chef, which Lily said was realistic and Marcus said he would take her word for it. At bedtime, Lily asked Clara to check under the bed. This was normally Marcus's job. He looked at Clara. She looked back at him with a mild expression. "It is for a monster," Lily explained. "My dad does it, but sometimes I think the monster knows his footsteps, so it hides better." "Makes sense," Clara said. She went and checked under the bed. She reported finding one sock, a library book that had been overdue for 2 weeks, and nothing of concern. Lily seemed satisfied. Marcus tucked her in. He stood in the doorway for a moment, looking at his daughter in her blankets. "I like her," Lily said, without opening her eyes. "I know," he said. "She checked the corners too," Lily said. He turned off the light. He went back to the kitchen where Clara was finishing the puzzle edge, the last few border pieces clicking into place. He sat down across from her. She looked up. "Thank you," he said, "for checking the corners." She set a piece down. "She is thorough," she said. "She is," he said. They sat there a moment in the kitchen, with the finished border of the night sky between them, all the inside still empty and unassembled, waiting to be filled. "I leave tomorrow," she said. Her voice was level. "Just a fact. Pete said the car would be ready by noon," he said. "Yes." The kitchen was very quiet. "I know you have to go," he said. "Your cousin is expecting you." "She is," she said. "The puzzle will still be here," he said. "It will probably take Lily and me another 3 weeks." Clara looked at the empty middle of the night sky. All that darkness waiting for stars. "Save me the Orion's belt pieces," she said. He looked at her. "You are 4 hours away." "I know," she said. She met his eyes. There was nothing hidden in it. Just the plain, direct look of someone who has decided to say the true thing instead of the careful thing. "I know," she said again, softer. Marcus looked at the puzzle, then back at her. "Okay," he said. And that was where they left it. Not resolved, not promised, just open. The way a door is open when someone walks through it, but does not pull it shut behind them. He saved the Orion's belt pieces. He put them in a small envelope from the kitchen drawer and wrote nothing on the outside. Clara was in the living room, folding her blanket, when he set it on the coffee table. She looked at it, then at him. "Good night, Marcus," she said. "Good night, Clara," she said. He went to his room. The house breathed in. The house breathed out. Somewhere across the dark yard, the swing set stood crooked in the moonlight. Waiting, the way things wait, that have learned to be patient. He was already awake when the door knocked. Not the front door, the back door, the one off the kitchen that faced the yard, the one Marcus used to take the trash out and nothing else. He heard it, and sat up in bed before he was fully thinking. The instinct operating a half-second ahead of his conscious mind, the way it does when you have been a single parent long enough that your nervous system has rearranged itself around the possibility of things going wrong. 6:41 in the morning. He pulled on a sweatshirt and came down the hall. Through the kitchen window he could see the driveway. There was a car parked there that was not his. A dark sedan, engine off. The back door knocked again. 3 knocks. Deliberate, not frantic. The kind of knocking that has been decided upon. He opened the door. 2 people. A man and a woman. Both in their mid-40s. Both in the particular professional posture that means official capacity. The woman had a folder. The man had his hands clasped in front of him, in the careful way of someone trying to appear approachable, while delivering something they know is not welcome. "Mr. Hale?" the woman said. "Yes," he said. She showed him a badge. County Family Services. She said her name and the man's name, and Marcus heard both, and kept neither, because what he was reading in her expression was already filling up whatever space names would have occupied. She handed him an envelope. He took it without looking at it. He was looking at her. "What is this?" he said. It was not quite a question. "You will want to read it," she said. We can wait. He opened the envelope. He read it standing in his own doorway in a sweatshirt with his bare feet on the cold kitchen tile. His ex-wife, Nora, she had filed with the family court 3 days ago, an emergency motion for custody modification. She was petitioning to relocate Lily to another state, where Nora's new partner had taken a position. The petition cited concerns. It used words like stability and environment, and appropriate oversight. It cited, specifically, the presence of unknown individuals in the home as an example of an environment requiring assessment. Marcus read the word assessment, and everything in him went very quiet. He looked up. "There will be a home assessment scheduled," the woman said, "and a hearing. The date is in the packet. 11 days. 11 days, he said. Yes. He looked down at the papers again. His handwriting was not on any of them. His signature was not on any of them. His version of anything was not on any of them at all. Just Nora's name at the bottom of a petition that described his home, his daughter's home, the place with the owl pajamas and the couch and the crooked swing set, as a subject of concern. "Is there anything you want to ask us?" the man said. Marcus looked at him. He thought about what he wanted to ask, and it was not something either of these two people could answer. What he wanted to ask was how a person who had not been present for 3 years, who had chosen distance and then distance again, and then had a new partner in a different state, had the standing to walk back in with a legal document and call his home something requiring assessment. "No," he said. "Thank you." They left. He closed the back door. He stood in the kitchen and held the papers and did not move for a full minute. In the living room, he heard Clara get up from the couch. He should have thought about what he was going to say. He did not have time. She appeared in the kitchen doorway in her socked feet, reading his face the way she read things, quickly and accurately, and she went still. "Marcus," she said. He held up the papers. He did not say anything. She crossed the kitchen and took them from him and read. He watched her read. He watched the expression on her face shift as she went. The careful, professional reading face. The one that processed language for what it actually meant legally rather than what it said literally. She finished. She looked up. "When is the hearing?" she said. 11 days, he said. She went to the table and sat down. She set the papers flat in front of her and read the first page again. She was not panicking. She was working. He could see the difference. "Do you have a lawyer?" she asked. "No. Have you ever had one? For the original custody arrangement?" "We agreed on it ourselves," he said. "When she left, we wrote it up and filed it. There was no dispute." Clara nodded. She was still reading. "The original agreement," she said. "Joint legal, primary physical with you?" "Yes." "And she has had how much parenting time in the last 3 years?" He told her. She listened. She was not writing anything down because she had no paper in front of her yet, but he had the distinct impression she was logging it in a format she could retrieve. She tapped the edge of the papers twice, thinking. Then she stood up. "I need paper," she said. He opened the drawer and gave her a legal pad. She sat back down. She started writing in a fast, clean hand. A list of things, categories, short notes beside each one. He sat across from her. "Clara," he said. She looked up. "You do not have to do this," he said. "I know," she said. She looked at him for a moment. Just a moment. Then she went back to the list. He watched her write. He had held that paperwork for 3 minutes and felt the floor shift under his whole life. She had held it for 4 and turned it into a list with categories. He did not know if he wanted to laugh or put his head down on the table. He made coffee. It seemed like the only appropriate response to any of this. When Lily woke up, Marcus was on his second cup, and Clara had filled 2 pages. Lily came in, looked at Clara writing, looked at her father's face, and made the small recalibration that children make when they sense something heavy in a room. "What happened?" Lily said. "Some adult paperwork," Marcus said. Lily looked at the legal pad. "Is it bad?" He thought about the right answer. He had always told Lily the truth at the level she could hold. Not all of it, but none of the false version either. He had promised himself that when Nora left, that he would never make things seem other than they were, and he had kept that. It is something we have to deal with, he said, but we are dealing with it. Lily looked at Clara. Is that why you are writing so much? Yes, Clara said. She met Lily's eyes. Your dad needs some help with some official things. I know about official things. Lily stood there for a moment in her owl pajamas, processing this. Is someone going to try to move me? She asked. Children knew more than they let on. Marcus had long suspected this. He sat down and looked at his daughter. Someone is trying, he said. We are going to make sure they do not. Lily's face did several things in quick succession. Then it settled. Not calm exactly. Resolved. The same face she made when Owen put the eraser in the fish tank, when a problem appeared, and she had already decided how she felt about it. Okay, she said. She went to the pantry, got her cereal, poured it, sat at the table beside Clara, and ate breakfast next to the legal pad, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Marcus looked at his daughter eating cereal. He looked at Clara writing beside her. He drank his coffee and held himself very still inside. He was not going to let this happen. But more than that, for the first time in 3 years, he was not going to be the only person in this kitchen trying to hold things together. That felt like something. Clara spent the morning at the table. She went through every piece of paper in the packet. She asked Marcus questions. He answered them. She built a document, longhand first, then typed on her phone because she did not have a laptop with her, that outlined the substance of his position. His primary physical custody, uncontested, in place for 3 years. Lily's school enrollment, her teacher contacts, her activities, her medical provider, all local. Marcus's employment record, stable for 12 years. His neighbor Gloria as a documented backup care provider. His home, inspected by the county when he had first established primary custody, clean record. And then the filing itself, Clara noted, had a procedural problem. The emergency designation required demonstrable imminent harm to the child. What the filing described was an unknown individual briefly present in the home, which was not, under the relevant standard, imminent harm. It was a stretch, a significant one. She said this plainly. Marcus listened. They may know it is a stretch, she said. They may be hoping you do not have representation, and do not know it. He thought about that. Would that work? Sometimes, she said. Without someone who knows the process, people concede things they do not have to concede. They agree to terms in the assessment that are not required. They miss deadlines. And with someone who knows the process? She looked at him. Different outcome. He let that sit for a moment. Clara, he said, you are supposed to be 4 hours away. I am, she said. Your cousin. She will wait, she said. She has been waiting for me to figure things out. A few more days will not break her. He looked at the table, at the legal pad full of her handwriting, at the 2 pages of notes that had turned the most frightening piece of paper he had ever held into something with edges and categories and an identifiable plan. Why, he said. She was quiet for a moment, not the evasive kind. Because 3 days ago, I walked away from a job where I stopped being able to help people who needed it, she said. And then I drove 400 miles and got a flat tire in your county and ended up in your kitchen. She paused. I am not a superstitious person, but I am not going to walk away from this. Marcus did not say anything. She went back to the legal pad. He called the county court that afternoon. Clara told him what to ask for. He asked for it. He was told the hearing date was confirmed. He asked about the standard for the emergency designation. The clerk paused for a moment, and then said he would want to speak to an attorney. Marcus said he had someone assisting him. The clerk said he would want to get that assistance in writing before the assessment. He relayed this to Clara. She told him what documentation to prepare. She told him what the home assessment would look at, what they were required to cover, what they were not. She told him what he was allowed to say and what he was better off saying less about, and why. She was precise. She was steady. She did not make it feel hopeless or dramatic. She made it feel like a process that had rules, and that she understood the rules, and that the rules, in this case, were on his side. Late afternoon, Pete called. The car was ready. Clara answered Marcus's phone because his hands were full of files he was organizing, And she told Pete thank you and they would pick it up in the morning. She handed the phone back to Marcus. He looked at her. Morning, she said. We need today. He nodded. Lily made dinner that evening. Or rather, Lily made the parts of dinner she was capable of making, which was the salad, which she arranged with more architectural ambition than was strictly necessary. Clara and Marcus made the rest. They moved around the kitchen with the comfortable economy of people who have already negotiated the space, who step around each other without bumping, who hand things off without words. Lily watched this from her salad architecture and said nothing, but she watched it. After dinner, Clara called her cousin. Marcus heard one side of the conversation from the living room. Short sentences. Clara's cousin, whose name was apparently Diane, was clearly a person who asked a lot of questions quickly. Clara answered them in order. Yes, she was fine. No, she was not stuck. Yes, this was important. Diane said something that made Clara go quiet for a moment. And then Clara said, plainly and without fuss, that she had found something worth staying for. Not someone. Something. Marcus sat in the living room and pretended to read. He was not reading. They sat on the porch again that night after Lily was in bed. It had become a thing without them deciding to make it a thing. The porch, the night air, the two chairs that were slightly mismatched because one of them had come from Gloria's garage sale. I want you to know, Marcus said, that whatever happens, I am grateful. For the list, for the document, for staying. Do not thank me yet, she said. The hearing is in 10 days. I am not thanking you for the outcome, he said. I am thanking you for sitting down at the table. She looked at the dark yard, at the swing set. She had asked about it that afternoon, why it was crooked, and he had told her. She had listened to that the way she listened to everything. Do you still get scared? She asked. Every day, he said. She nodded. Me too, she said. What are you scared of? He asked. She thought about it. Getting it right, she said. More than getting it wrong. I am scared of getting close to right, and then pulling back, because it feels too big. He did not ask her to explain. He understood it exactly. That specific fear. The one that does not look like fear from the outside because from the outside it looks like caution, like sense, like wisdom. But from the inside you know it is just the old scar tissue deciding for you. I pulled back for a long time, he said. I know, she said. I could tell. He looked at her. Was it obvious? Not obviously, she said. But I have spent 9 years watching people hold themselves away from what they need. I can see the posture of it. He was quiet for a moment. And now? He asked. She looked at him. The porch light did what porch lights do, made a warm circle that held them both. Now you opened the back door this morning, she said. And the first thing you did was let me help. He thought about that, about the moment he had handed her the papers. It had not been a choice exactly, more like a reflex. But some reflexes, he was learning, were things you built without knowing you were building them. Some reflexes were what happened when you had quietly, without announcing it to anyone including yourself, decided to stop holding everything alone. The yard was dark. The swing set stood in it, crooked and necessary. I need to win this hearing, he said. You are going to win this hearing, she said. Not a comfort, a fact, the way she said things that were true. He breathed out. Okay, he said. The night was very clear. Somewhere beyond the yard, there were stars doing what they always did, which was exist at a distance that should make them irrelevant, but somehow did not. Marcus looked at them for a while. He had 10 days. He had a woman beside him who had once, for 9 years, helped people navigate the worst documents of their lives. He had a daughter who checked for monsters in corners and gave bread to ducks who did not deserve it, and said we, without thinking twice. He had a crooked swing set that he had built with shaking hands and a great deal of stubborn love. He had, he realized, more than he had thought. Thank you, Clara, he said. You are welcome, Marcus, she said. She said it like it meant something. He believed her. The 10 days were the longest Marcus had spent in a long time. Not because nothing happened, because everything happened, slowly, in small steps, the way difficult things tend to unfold, Not in dramatic moments, but in hours of paperwork and phone calls and waiting and then more paperwork. Clara organized it. She had a system. She kept a folder. She wrote dates in the margin of the legal pad. She made 3 different phone calls on his behalf that she prefaced with her name and her professional background and the precise legal nature of her involvement. And in each case, the person on the other end of the line listened in a slightly different way than they had listened to Marcus. He noticed that. He did not resent it. He was grateful for it. There was a time when he might have felt something wounded about needing it. That time had passed. The home assessment happened on the 4th day. The assessor's name was Henry. He was a compact man in his 50s with a clipboard and reading glasses on a cord around his neck, and the practiced neutrality of someone who has seen a very wide range of homes and has learned to reserve all judgment until the forms are complete. He arrived at 9 in the morning. Marcus had been awake since 5. The house was clean. It had always been clean, but it was the kind of clean that comes from someone who cares, not the kind that comes from performance. There were Lily's drawings on the fridge. There was her library book on the coffee table. There was the puzzle, still about 30% complete, the night sky slowly accumulating stars in the corner. There was the shoe rack by the door where 3 pairs of child's shoes sat beside 2 pairs of an adult's, and 1 pair of shoes Marcus recognized as Clara's that she had placed neatly at the end. Clara had offered to leave for the assessment. He had said no. He had thought about it, genuinely thought, and the answer was no. Because his home was what it was. He was not going to manage the presentation of it based on what a petition had implied. His home had a woman in it who had come through in a crisis, and who had been a decent, present, thoughtful person under his roof. And if the assessment looked at that and found a problem, then the assessment was not looking at his home. It was looking at something someone had described in paperwork. Clara was in the kitchen when Henry arrived. She was making coffee. She shook Henry's hand, introduced herself by name, and stated briefly that she was a family law paralegal staying as a guest, and then she went back to making coffee like she was supposed to be there, which she was. Henry wrote something on his clipboard and did not say anything about it. He walked through the house. Marcus followed. Henry looked at Lily's room with the thoroughness of someone who knows what a child's room reveals. There was a bookshelf, organized by size, because that was how Lily preferred it, and not by any other system that an adult would recognize. There were 2 stuffed animals and a solar system mobile above the bed that turned slightly in the heat from the vent. There was a poster of dinosaurs on the wall with all their names in a font chosen by a 7-year-old, which meant the Brachiosaurus was in bright orange and the Stegosaurus was in purple. Henry wrote something. They went back to the kitchen. Henry sat at the table and asked Marcus questions. Clear, specific questions. School, medical, emergency contacts, financial stability, support structure, days of care, backup care arrangements, holiday schedules. He asked about Gloria next door. He asked about Marcus's work schedule and how Lily's care was managed during plant hours. Marcus answered everything. He had the documents for most of it. Clara had helped him organize them into a folder that he set on the table and opened 1 page at a time. Henry went through each piece. His face was neutral throughout, the way a good assessor's face should be. Near the end, Henry asked about the petition's specific concern, the presence of an unknown individual in the home. Marcus said Clara's name. He gave the dates of her presence. He described how she came to be there, plainly and completely. He did not omit the flat tire, or the rainstorm, or the hotel being full. He did not frame it. He just said what happened. Henry looked at Clara across the table. "And you are a family law paralegal," he said. 9 years, Clara said. Henry wrote something. He clicked his pen twice. He put his clipboard down on the table and took off his reading glasses and held them in one hand. "Mr. Hale," he said, "I am going to file my report within 48 hours. I cannot discuss my conclusions until they are submitted, but I will say that I do not anticipate recommending any concerns regarding the stability of this household." Marcus was very still. "Thank you," he said. Henry nodded. He put his glasses back on. He picked up his clipboard. He closed it and stood. At the door, he paused. He looked back at the kitchen, at the puzzle on the coffee table, at the drawings on the fridge, at Lily's shoes on the rack. It was a brief look, the kind that holds many things. Then he left. Marcus closed the door and stood with his back against it. Clara was at the table with her coffee. She was looking at him. He pressed the back of his head against the door. He breathed in, breathed out. 7 days to the hearing, she said. 7 days, he said. We have the assessment coming back clean. We have documentation of established stability. We have the procedural argument about the emergency designation. And we have a record of her parenting time, or the absence of it. She was laying it out the same way she had been laying it out for 4 days. In categories, with clarity, not to manage him, just so he knew exactly what ground he was standing on. He pushed off the door. He sat down across from her. Clara, he said. She looked at him. Are you happy here, he said. He had not planned to ask it. It came from somewhere close to the surface. She held his gaze. The careful reading look came and went. What replaced it was something more open. I have been happier in the last 7 days than I have been in a long time, she said. And that is not nothing. He nodded. He looked at the table, at the folder with all the documents, at the legal pad covered in her handwriting. After the hearing, he said, whatever happens, I want to talk about what comes next. She did not look away. Okay, she said. He reached across the table, not for the folder or the legal pad. He set his hand, open, on the table between them. She looked at it. Then she set hers beside it. Not on top. Beside. 2 people deciding to be next to each other without making a performance of it. He said nothing else. She said nothing else. Outside, the morning went on doing what mornings do. Lily came home from school that afternoon with a painting she had made in art class. She held it up when she came through the door. Green and blue and something orange in the middle that might have been a sun or might have been a planet. It was not entirely clear. What is it? Marcus asked. Our house, Lily said. From far away. He looked at the painting. From far away, a house looked different. It looked whole. It looked like one thing instead of many things. It is beautiful, he said. Lily looked at Clara. You are not in it because I did not know what color you wanted to be, she said. This was a factual statement, not an apology. Clara studied the painting seriously. Green, she said. Lily nodded. I will add you tomorrow, she said. And she hung the painting on the fridge next to the others, like that decision was made. The 7 days continued. Clara made calls she did not always explain to Marcus. Follow-up calls, clarifications. One long conversation he overheard from the hallway, where she was speaking to someone at the court clerk's office about a procedural requirement in the emergency designation that she believed had not been met. She spoke without aggression. She spoke with precision. The precision was more effective than aggression ever would have been. Marcus learned things in those 7 days. He learned how his own custody arrangement was documented, which he had known in general terms but not in specific legal terms. He learned what primary physical custody actually meant in his county's code, what it protected, what it required. He learned that the filing against him had significant weaknesses that had been dressed up in language designed to look more solid than it was. He also learned things about Clara that had nothing to do with legal filings. He learned that she drank her second cup of coffee cold and did not notice, that she was reading a novel about a cartographer and found it extremely funny, though she could not always explain why when he asked, that she had a habit, when she was concentrating hard, of tucking her feet under her on the kitchen chair, which drove the chair legs slightly into the floor over time, which Lily had noticed and pointed out as a structural concern. He learned that when she laughed at something Lily said, the laugh came all the way up from somewhere genuine, and she did not try to moderate it. He learned that she watched him when she thought he was not looking, the way he watched her when he thought she was not looking, and at least twice they had caught each other at it, and both looked at the puzzle and said nothing, and that nothing was full of things. The night before the hearing, they sat on the porch. Later than usual, Lily had been up past her bedtime because she had declared she could not sleep, and Marcus had let it go, knowing some nights were like that, and she had eventually fallen asleep on the couch with her head in Clara's lap, while Clara was reviewing documents, and had simply not moved her until the documents were done. Now it was quiet. I am nervous, Marcus said. He said it plainly, without defense around it. I know, Clara said. That is appropriate. It is the right amount of nervous. It means it matters. What if it is not enough? He said. What if the paperwork is not enough? Clara was quiet for a moment. Not because she did not have an answer. He had learned the difference between her silences by now. This was the silence of someone choosing the right, true thing. Lily was born here, she said. She has lived here her whole life. She goes to school 3 streets from this house. She has a neighbor who sends emoji at 9 in the morning. She has a teacher who read to a basset hound with a group of children on Wednesday afternoons. And she knows that teacher's name. She has a swing set in the backyard that her father built with his own hands while he was still figuring out how to do everything alone. She stopped. That is not paperwork, she said. That is a life. You built her a life. The paperwork just describes it. Marcus looked at the yard. The swing set stood there, crooked as always, visible in the faint light from the porch. He did not say anything. He did not have to. The courtroom was small and institutional, and smelled like recirculated air and printer toner. Marcus sat on one side of a wooden table. Across from him, Nora sat with her attorney, a man Marcus had never met who wore an expensive watch and spoke in the smooth, confident cadence of someone used to doing most of the talking. Clara was not in the room. She could not be. She was not his legal representative. She had spent 2 evenings going over every point with him, every document, every answer to every question he was likely to be asked. And then she had handed the folder to him at the courthouse steps and told him to breathe through his nose, and she would be outside when he came back out. He thought about that when the other attorney started speaking, that she was outside, standing in the morning with her coffee from the courthouse machine, that she had said was terrible but she was drinking anyway, and she was out there, and he was going to come back out and she was going to be there. He held that. The judge was a woman named the Honorable Patricia Webb, according to the placard on her bench. She was in her 60s, with close-cut gray hair and reading glasses that she wore on her face rather than on a cord, and she read every document in the folder with a speed and focus that suggested she had read a very large number of documents in her life and had no patience for the ones that wasted her time. Nora's attorney presented the case for emergency modification. He emphasized the presence of a stranger in the home. He used the words oversight and continuity and best interest in close sequence, which Marcus had been warned to expect. The judge read the assessment report from Henry. She read it carefully. She set it aside. She looked at Marcus. "Mr. Hale," she said, "you have been the primary custodial parent for 3 years." "Yes, Your Honor." "During that time, has the child expressed any wish to change that arrangement?" He thought of Lily, her owl pajamas, her ducks, her painting, her green figure that would be added tomorrow. "No," he said. The judge looked at the other table. She picked up the original filing. She looked at the emergency designation at the top of it. "Counsel," she said, "I have reviewed the basis for the emergency designation. I am not convinced the threshold has been met. The presence of a house guest, without evidence of any harm to the child, does not constitute an emergency, requiring expedited modification." The expensive watch attorney began to say something. The judge set the filing down. "The motion," she said, "is denied." Marcus heard the words. He had been bracing for a long time. He had been holding himself rigid against something for so long that when the thing released, he did not know immediately what to do with his own body. He sat for a moment. He kept his face level. He breathed through his nose. The judge said something else about the standard for future modification petitions, about required documentation. He listened. He heard it. He would read it later in the transcript that would come in the mail. He shook the hand of the clerk who handed him his copy of the ruling. He walked out of the courtroom. He went down the hall. He pushed open the heavy courthouse door. Clara was on the steps. She had the coffee from the courthouse machine in one hand. She was wearing the long coat. Her hair was doing the complicated thing it did in the morning. She looked at his face. He nodded. She closed her eyes for exactly 1 second. Then she opened them. "Come here," she said. He walked down the steps and she met him at the bottom, and she put her arms around him, and he put his around her, and they stood there on the courthouse steps in the morning, with the traffic going by, and the pigeons doing what pigeons do, and the world carrying on entirely indifferent to the fact that something that mattered very much had just been settled inside that building. He held on. She held on. Eventually they both let go, but not at the same time, which was fine. He called Gloria. She had Lily. He told her, and she made a noise on the phone that was half joy and half the kind of relief that sounds like it has been sitting in someone's chest for a while. He told her they would be home soon. He drove back to the house. Clara sat beside him. The morning was doing its steady, decent thing, clear and ordinary, and exactly what he needed. When they got home, Lily was in the kitchen with Gloria, eating an apple, and apparently in the middle of explaining something about ecosystems. She looked up when Marcus came in. She read his face the same way Clara did. Different method, same instinct. "Did you win?" she said. "We won," he said. Lily set down her apple. She climbed off the kitchen chair, walked to her father, and hugged him around the middle with both arms at full force, the way children hug when they are 7, and they mean it completely. Marcus put both arms around her and held on. Gloria made a quiet sound and looked at the window. Clara stood in the kitchen doorway. She did not come in right away. She gave it a moment. That moment was not her moment, and she knew that and respected it, which was one of the things about her that Marcus had come to understand was not a coincidence but a character. After a while, Lily looked up from the hug and saw Clara at the door. "Clara," she said, "come in. You are not outside people." Clara smiled. She came in. "Outside people," Marcus said. "People who stand outside," Lily said. "She is inside people. She has been inside people since the first night." Nobody argued with this. It was accurate. They ate lunch at the kitchen table. Gloria stayed because she had made soup and there was too much of it for one person, which she said but which everyone understood was not the real reason. The kitchen was full and warm and loud in the measured way of a small gathering where everyone knows each other well enough to talk at the same time without it becoming a problem. After lunch, Clara picked up the puzzle envelope from the windowsill, the one Marcus had made on the second night, with the Orion's belt pieces inside. She looked at it for a moment, then she set it down. "I am going to stay and finish the puzzle," she said, "if that is all right." "The puzzle is going to take weeks," Marcus said. "I know," she said. He looked at her. She looked at him. "Clara," Lily said from the other side of the table, with the blunt, factual tone of a 7-year-old who has made a decision and does not understand why adults need longer. "Just stay. We have a room." Marcus said nothing. Clara said nothing for a moment. Then she said, "Okay." Just like that. Lily went back to her lunch. Gloria looked at the window again. She was smiling. Marcus looked at the puzzle on the coffee table. The night sky, still mostly dark and unfinished, waiting for all its stars to be placed. He thought about how long he had been walking through his own life with everything compressed, everything managed, everything held close and alone. He thought about a rainstorm and a flat tire, and a woman standing on the side of a dark road, with her arm up and a phone at 11%. He thought about the envelope of puzzle pieces on the windowsill, about a 7-year-old who said "we" without thinking, about what it meant to open a door, in the full sense, not just the literal one. He thought about all of that. Then he picked up a puzzle piece, a single star in the lower left corner of the frame, and set it in its place. Clara sat down across from him. She opened the envelope. She found the 3 Orion's belt pieces and set them beside the puzzle for when they got there. Lily pulled her chair around and sat between them. Outside, the yard was sunlit. The swing set stood in it, crooked and permanent and necessary. The 3 of them worked on the puzzle. The stars, one by one, came home.